Hi, and welcome at This Is How We Roll. Last year, we discussed having meetups, tech talks at the office, where you can have interesting discussions and where you can meet our team. But unfortunately, that's not the situation today. So that's why we're opening our virtual doors today, and I have invited the crème de la crème of our R&D team today. So I'm Hannah Neyens, the operations manager at TrendMiner, and I will not be the person to explain you how R&D works at TrendMiner. That's why I invited Jan de Dobbeler, our CTO. Jan, are you present?
Hi, Hannah. Hope you can hear me all right. So first off, let me say I'm really excited to be here. And I'm actually, for the first time in a really long period at the office. So as you stated, I'm the CTO, meaning I'm currently coaching, guiding the R&D department. And I thought maybe it's a good idea or a good first introduction is to also show our offices because we are actually quite proud of them and are anxiously awaiting our return to them. So bear with me as I walk you through them. As you can see, we have a kitchen, which is obviously really nice where we meet up, showing that life at TrendMiner is not always only work. We also have more than enough breakout spaces to even, hit a punching ball, play a game of soccer, or whatever else we might need in order to relax a bit during the office time. We have breakout rooms, more than enough, because as you see, we opted for an open office for our R&D department to collaborate, but also have more than enough space to actually do a breakout, even have soundproof cubicles, which is a really good idea if you want to get seated and work focused. Collaboration areas where whiteboards are, more office space as you would expect in a regular office, obviously. More whiteboard rooms for each and every team so that we can collaborate. Now we do all of these things inside of teams, but hopefully we are able to return really, really soon. More breakout space to actually be focused and have a meeting when you need to. More whiteboards, which were left due to the pandemic. And in the end, when I turn the corner, even more lovely spaces. So let me find my way to you, Hannah, and we can get started.
All right, thank you, Jan. And before you get seated, maybe some quick practicalities. This webinar is in listen-only mode for you. So if you have questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the chat. We will pick them up later. And it will be recorded, so the recording will be shared with you afterwards. But before we deep dive into the wonders of R&D, we also have Rob, a product manager, with us today, and he will explain you more about TrendMiner, the product, and TrendMiner, the company. Rob, are you there?
Hey, Anne. Yes, I'm here. So yeah, maybe as a short introduction to everyone, my name is Rob Azevedo. I'm the product manager at TrendMiner. So on a day-to-day basis, that means that I work on the roadmap of the product and make sure that the wheels around it are clear, like positioning, product marketing, and things like that. And so yeah, today I wanted to give an introduction into the product. And to start off, we need to actually start with maybe explaining the market that TrendMiner is in and what the problem is that we are trying to solve. So we are a product company that is situated in the process industry. That means that we operate in a couple of verticals, like you can see on top here. And as you can see from the logos, TrendMiner is really a global company. We are working with the biggest brands out there. You might recognize a couple over here, like BASF or Total or DSM or Ineos. But you can be sure of it that actually you, as a regular consumer, will be using products from all of these customers on a daily basis. For example, you can see DSM Dyneema on the slide here. I'm actually wearing pants from jeans from Levi's that use the Dyneema fabric to make the strong and stretchy jeans from Levi's that we all love. And it's not only these customers in the chemicals vertical, but there's a lot more. So we also cover oil and gas, metals and mining, and a lot more in energy, in food and beverage, and even in pharma. Like, for example, all the vaccines that we are all so anxiously waiting on. TrendMiner is actually involved in the production process of a lot of them. And so if we look at those types of customers from the process industry, they have a specific type of challenge. They're looking to, for example, predict maintenance on machines based on process data. They are looking at reducing costs while still improving the product quality. They try to optimize energy efficiency, for example, or determine best operating zones based on the process data. And to do these, to solve these challenges, to solve these goals, companies realized that they needed to get more insights from data that they had already been storing for years. And so with all that data, they set out on a quest, and they were going to hire a lot of data scientists. But very quickly, they realized there weren't a lot of data scientists, and certainly not a lot of data scientists that have process expertise that could actually do the job. And that's where we at TrendMiner realized something. We actually need to empower everyone. So not only the data scientist users, but everyone around that. That means that all the process engineers, all the operators, all the managers that are in the plant need to be empowered to take up data analytics themselves. And so our mission statement to democratize industrial analytics was born. And so what does that mean concretely? Well, in the industry, you have a lot of types of data, but primarily it's categorized in these two, being sensor data. And sensor data can be data that comes from equipment like a windmill, a sensor that might be outputting the rotations per minute or the wattages that the windmill is producing. Or if you look at a chemical process, it's the heat or the pressure that is in a certain pipeline. And on the other side, we've got contextual data, which might be quality and maintenance information that the maintenance teams are producing, weather data, like the forecast of the day, but also lab samples that contain quality about the process. And so for these two types of data, we have two hubs, two analytical hubs. One is called Trend Hub and one is called Context Hub. And both of these hubs let you search the data and compare the data to really find what you're looking for. For example, the query engine that TrendMiner has built is lightning fast. It's built on big data infrastructure, and it is really optimized to go through huge amounts of data in a very fast way. And it also gives you the tools to search that data. For example, to run pattern recognition on it, to search for correlating data, search for influencing parameters or early indicators in the data, early indicators of a problem, that is. And next to that, we've built a calculation engine as well, and a lot of things around it that let you build your own calculated tags, as you would call them, but also machine learning models, produce your linear regression, and deploy them back into the app itself. A powerful recommendation engine, and even generating predictions on the data at hand. And if you pull all of those things together, the searches, the ML models, the recommendations, and so on, you also want to automate a lot of things. So once you know, once you have diagnosed one problem, you can also deploy that one problem set and deploy that as a TrendMiner monitor. What does that mean? It means that we continuously search through the data, and whenever a new event of that same upset occurs again, we can alert a lot of people so that they can get cracking, start doing maintenance work, starting a new investigation to solve all the problems. And to pull all of those insights together from those two hubs, we also have a third product, which lets you make actionable dashboards, and you do that in the product we call Dash Hub. And together, they make the TrendMiner platform. So after that short overview, you can also see here in a couple of screenshots how the platform actually looks. Like, for example, here is the TrendHub interface, and you can see that we are talking about time series data or sensor data, and you can see here the concentration and level indicators, or even a temperature that is on display here, and you can see a lot of statistical data that is produced around it. And so this is the hub where all of those key tools are, like pattern recognition and the predictive modes that you are used to on time series data. If we move to Context Hub, you can see that the type of data is quite different. We're talking about events or relational data that have clear start and endpoints that can be represented as blocks. And for example, you can see on screen that there's a lot of types of data. You can see things like maintenance information or lab samples that are being produced. So very different from the time series data that we're looking at before in TrendHub. And here is the dashboard interface. So bringing everything together, making dashboards that the people in the control rooms can put up on a big screen and really follow up on the day-to-day operations inside of the plant. And then something went wrong, sorry. Yes. And so after the short intro into our product, I want to end on the TrendMiner users themselves. So at TrendMiner, we focus a lot on the user, and customer centricity, being one of our core values, shows how important we feel about the input of our users. And focus on the user can be seen in a lot of places in the company, going from the way we do sales, how we follow up with the customers through our customer success team, and how we gather feedback from our users. One example here is the customer wishes. It is the small box that you see on the left here. And this is how every user of the TrendMiner application can submit their wishes for a feature. And all of these wishes get a personal reply and follow up from us. And we devote ourselves to taking these wishes into account when making the roadmap of the product. And so that was it from my end. Back to you, Anna.
All right, thank you, Rob. And before Jan goes further on the company, I would like to ask a typical question I ask Rob. What is it that makes your eyes sparkle, that makes you tick while working at TrendMiner? What is it that makes you you?
Well, for me, it is working at TrendMiner already for 6 years, being there from very early on. And for me, that's always been that we're making something that has impact in the world. It is really a company that operates globally. You sit around the table with a lot of people from the bigger brands out there, and we are really defining a new industry. Also, TrendMiner is a new product. There might be some competitors out there, but actually we were the first, and we really led the industry in a very innovative way.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Nicely put. Jan, you want to continue with the company?
Sure. Rob, do you want to help me with the slides? Because you're the best person to assist me on that, if you would be so kind. So before we jump into where we are as a company, we thought it might be a good idea to first zoom in on our culture. Like, what are the values that we as a company really want to aim for, right? So Rob already touched upon customer centricity, which was the first bullet there. I think that needs no further explanation based on what we just heard. So that's a good thing. The second one is one team, and we will talk about that a lot more during this webinar. It's a really important topic. As a third one, we have a can-do mentality, which is also a really important value for us, that if we, whatever the challenge is, that we figure out how to do that. That should be our main approach and how we tackle these things. Innovation, obviously looking at what we do, what our customers want, what they might not even know that they want right now, that we can offer to them, is really important for us. And overall, overarching is excellence, is that we aim that whatever we do, regardless of the context, that we strive for perfection, which isn't easy, but we aim for it, right? As a next topic, I just wanted to really bring to your attention is where we are as a company, so that we have that common understanding. So if you have paid attention to what's listed here on top of me, you can see that TrendMiner is actually a software AG company what does that really mean is that about 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, Hannah, we got actually acquired by Software AG, meaning
Correct.
we have given, or we got a position within that wider organization. Today, TrendMiner is positioned within IoT and analytics, which is our business unit, and we're in today, where we have other products within the Software AG portfolio, and we are just within that context together with them today, trying to figure out what that means going forward for all of us, right? So that's something we will be doing in the coming years. Within TrendMiner, we have R&D. That's the topic of today, where today I am in the lead of R&D. We have Rob, who's joining me underneath, and a lot of other people, which ends up to teams, whether that's product, architecture, or engineering teams. That's the structure we have right now, right? So that's what we'll talk about. I'm looking forward to see what that might mean.
Okay, clear. Thank you, Rob, for handling the slides and for your presentation and explanation on TrendMiner. So Jan, let's go into this webinar. You're new to TrendMiner.
Correct.
This is the first time we meet today. The whole hiring process went remote, so we spoke a lot via Teams, and we worked together in the meantime. So yeah, officially welcome to the TrendMiner building.
Thank you very much.
One question I always like, the big why. So why did you choose to join TrendMiner?
All right. So it's important to note that initially I wasn't really looking for a new opportunity. I got contacted by someone in my personal network who knew TrendMiner and who knew that, okay, there was a certain challenge. They needed a role because we didn't have an engineering manager at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So got into contact, started talking with the CTO at the time, with you amongst others, and a lot of other people. And there was this immediate connection, not only on a people level, where I really resonated with what was being shared, but also on what needed to be done and why they were looking for someone.
Mm-hmm.
That really matched really well with my personal objectives, what I wanted to do as a person. So even though I wasn't actively looking, I was, from the first chat that I had, eager to get started at TrendMiner.
Okay, good to hear we made such a great impression. Yeah, I wanted to ask you what you were looking for, but it was clear you were not looking for something, but what triggered you? What was it that TrendMiner that made you tick?
I think like most people, or at least I know a lot of people that during this past few years, looking at the time, started thinking about their work, what it meant for them, looking for maybe something else to do, or finding core values that you really believe in. I did that during the summer of last year. Couldn't go on holiday, so obviously you're left wondering what am I doing now in my life and what's next. And what for me was really important, that I identified that I get a lot of energy from leading, coaching, inspiring people to find what makes them tick, find what makes them and teams efficient, especially within an engineering context, right? That resonated really well with the challenge, or at least the request or the gap they wanted to fill at TrendMiner at the time. And that's why I had a really, really good connection to get started and do that work.
Okay, so you joined beginning of this year. I also always like to ask, what about the first impressions? Because there is always a great sense of culture and community to take away from, but also great learnings, because first impressions say a lot. So what were your first impressions?
The thing that stuck initially was the people, right? I said during the onboarding, I had a really good contact with all of the people, which actually made the case just automatically. And that was something that was also present when I met all of the other people within engineering and R&D at TrendMiner, but even beyond. So that was, like, for me, really cool to see that we had so many amazing people that just wanted to, get the job done. So all of the values that I just spoke about, they just came back naturally, which is a unique thing and not present in every company. And next to that, it was obvious that TrendMiner started as a startup, moved to a scale up, and then was stuck at, okay, so what's next, right? So we have individuals who are really passionate and skilled. Translating that to an organization that's equally skilled or equally efficient was still a bit of a challenge, right? So everything grew a bit more organically, and that was definitely a challenge that was present. Like, when it boils down to planning, way of working, etc., empowering teams. So that was where it needed to be done. But overall, no, I think that was my first impression.
Okay, okay. We have Marina on the call as well, because I really want to tap into that team culture, team experience or ownership. Marina, if you are present, it would be great if you can turn on. Great, I can see you. I hopefully can hear you as well.
Okay.
So Marina, hi. It would be great if you can quickly, tell us what you do, what you're responsible for, and also explain us what, team culture means for you and your team.
Yeah, I work as QA engineer, and our QA team is responsible, obviously, for the quality of the product, but also we are responsible for setting up and facilitating the processes that will help to deliver the best quality to our customers. We define the most efficient automation strategy for the epics and go for it. Also, it's very interesting to mention that we have the coverage on all 3 levels, and our pyramid is in right shape. That we have extensive coverage, but we have extensive unit tests written by developers. We have integration JBehav tests written by developers and QA engineers, and also we have a reasonable amount of end-to-end tests to gain even more confidence in the end result. So as you can see, we work very closely together as a QA engineers, as a product analysts, and the developers, very closely together as one team. And if I would need to name just one key feature of TrendMiner team, I would say that it's team's autonomy. We what is the biggest plus and the biggest value for me with respect of the team? It's nothing is set in stone. In my team, we just recently switched to we were working in Kanban and just recently switched to Scrum. We identified our challenges and searched for a solution. The challenges are like usual ones that anyone can relate within the IT. It's like we had no clear vision on estimates, let's say, and the backlog buildings were taking too much time. So we identified all the challenges and searched for solution, and it was Scrum for us. Once we defined all the basic steps and we fine-tuned, adjusted all of them, procedures, ceremonies to our needs. We made a switch. And so far, we have completed 3 sprints already, and we are very pleased with the results. The biggest wins for us were that we defined and fine-tuned the definition of ready, the estimation scale ourselves, and that helped us to be on the same page within the team. We are setting the goal of the sprint and planning the future demo on the day of sprint planning was also very challenges the team and forces people to go out of the comfort zone. We also noticed that motivation within the team noticeably increased, like reaching the goal and making the demo possible brings a lot of drive to the team. And we also, with each sprint, we were raising the bar each time high and high, but we do care about the balance. So we make sure that the goal that we set is reachable. So it's very important, the balance for us within the team. So that's in short what I would like to, in short, to describe how TrendMiner team looks like. And this is the best example of how we work together. So we have a perception that as long as we work together, we can do anything. If something stops giving results, we will change it, but we will change it together and work further towards the future goal. So
thank you. That's very nicely put. I also want to ask you the same question about the sparkle in the eye, but the thing is, for the last 2 minutes, I only saw sparkles in your eyes. I'm still going to ask it, Marina, but it's so nice to see how much passion you have. But yeah, what is it that makes you tick when you work, when you have a good day?
I would agree with Rob. for me, it's really, I'm passionate about reaching the goal. When we work together towards one goal, and when I see how their feature or product is being developed from customer request, and we are delivering together this to a customer and making his life easier and his working experience much more satisfiable. So something that is actually gives a value to our people that we are serving. Actually, we serve them, given our nice experience.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope there is a small delay, but that's life at Corona nowadays. You know, everyone's working from home and the test goes well and then you go live, because that's what we are. We are live in the studio. Actually, the guys joked about running in with the unicorn uniform. I'm still waiting for that.
I'm disappointed that they won't.
Exactly. Marina, you spoke about team autonomy. I actually want to throw the ball at you, Jan.
Yeah.
Her team is working well like that, or all teams working like that, or do we still have, let's say, some steps to take? And also, what are you going to do about it?
Let me zoom in on what Marina said, because it's really, for me, it's important to also acknowledge the work the team did on that level.
Okay.
Right? It's not to be underestimated. We saw that they did really a lot of work to think collaboratively on, okay, what's the challenge? How do we solve this? They have, fortunate enough, they are, how do I say, adequately staffed. So they have more than enough experience within the team to provide an answer to that challenge. I don't think today, and that brings us to this webinar, we have for each and every team all of the answers that we are looking for, right? And we want teams to be able to offer an answer on these challenges themselves, right? I'm not there to dictate, I'm there to facilitate, assist them in finding out what works for them. It's not a question about doing the same all over the place. No. We've seen in the past time and time again, that doesn't really work. You could adopt the Spotify model like they do everywhere, but we all know that's not going to fly. So we need the right people in place for each and every team to make sure that they can offer an answer, whatever it is, to the challenge that we have, right? And I'm there to assist, but we also need people within the teams to assist on that level as well, so we can actually move towards really autonomous teams. Historically, what we did, and that's perfectly natural, is we built teams around the constraints that we had at the time, whether that's the office, the technical or architectural challenge that we had, or the answers that we needed to provide. And also there, this is evolving over time, right? Where we are today is not where we will be within 2 years. So we need the right people in there to also be able to evolve with us on that trajectory. Right? It's a challenge that we have at this point in time, and either we're flexible enough to provide an answer, or it will not work, or we will, hit the limits there. So maybe to give that context, which is really important, I also invited Nikki, our chief architect, who can help us, just explain where are we today on an architectural technical level with TrendMiner, and what does that mean for the future? Because it's really important to understand and see what it might mean for you if you're interested in working for our company. Nikki, will you walk us through it, please?
Sure. Thanks, Jan. So hi, everyone. So my name is Niki, and I'm basically, my role is being responsible for defining the strategy. Where do we need to bring our product, both making sure that we're ready from a technical point of view for the demands that our customers have. And there's two main areas that we will be focusing on in the coming years. The first one is mostly about connectivity, where we traditionally connected to what we call brownfield infrastructure. So that's more classical control systems, wired sensors, and all of that data would be available in a select few enterprise historians. So there's a number of vendors, we support them well, so we have a very good coverage there. But we see an increase in or a shift in that, where that customers are building also new production lines, and we're seeing in new markets where real IoT platforms, windmills, batteries that are placed at customers, for example, transportation, discrete manufacturing, all of those things. Those are different types of architectures. You see IoT platforms popping up at customers where they are connecting those greenfield and those brownfield, and all of that data is coming together, typically in new types of storage, data lakes, as they call it, which is very wide. That means we're looking, we need to support new types of data sources, both those classical data lakes with blob stores and query layers like Synapse and Athena and whatnot, but also very specific time series databases. And we see all the big vendors coming up. InfluxDB, for example, is one that we see a lot being used, but also things like Azure Time Series Insights or from Amazon TimeStream, and there's quite some other ones. So next to that, also using that power of TrendMiner that Rob mentioned on monitoring and predicting when things might not go like they need to go, or planning maintenance up front, things like that. We also see a need to do that on that device connectivity streaming level more and more, because we are moving into more business critical operations and things like that. So that also means that's a new area we need to invest in and make sure that we can also work with those IoT platforms like our own Cumulosity, or platforms from partners like SAP and Microsoft and Amazon and lots more out of there. So from innovation and research point of view, that poses a challenge. I'm still on the previous slide, Rob. So it poses a bit of a challenge because we cannot build everything ourselves. So we're both focusing on building a developer community for partners to help us build all of that connectivity, and we're also looking into emerging technologies that can help us realizing this. Things like event meshes to abstract away all of that streaming and event technology. Things like Apache Arrow, for example, for fast zero-copy data transfer and others. So the second area, you can move slides now, Rob, thanks. So the second area is scalability in a very broad sense. So we're already in a microservice architecture, and we typically still deploy in a lot of cases in those brownfield architectures, which are on premises. So a lot of our deployments are still what we today with a fancy name is called thick edge. It's a VM on premises. It handles some things close to the data. And lots of our bigger customers have many TrendMiners installed spread across the world. So they're also not looking to move everything into the cloud, whether it's because of bandwidth limitations or latency or data security constraints they have or organizational constraints they have. They're really asking for a hybrid solution where they can offload heavy things to the cloud where there's a lot of power, but they still have the flexibility of those different installs to serve those local users in the plans with TrendMiner. And our vision is to provide a true distributed architecture where we can support all of those models, but we can really bring all of that together in one virtual deployment, still having central governance, central administration, but providing fast and local access and a secure way to transfer data and work that you do within TrendMiner between all of those different installs. So we are moving everything on Kubernetes today, both for cloud and edge, instead of our lightweight nomad-based orchestration that we were using traditionally. And we're looking at emerging technologies like KubeEdge and some other things to figure out how we can provide that transparently to our customers. Some other things we're looking at is scaling every little bit of our platform, not only up, but also down, because if you think about those edge scenarios, they don't always have big machines. The closer you move to devices, the less power and memory and whatnot you have. So we're really looking into scaling up, down in every aspect to be able to support all of those use cases in the future. That was, I think, in a nutshell, what I wanted to share from this.
Thank you, Nikki. And as I already said in the beginning, we invited the crème de la crème, and up until now, it only shows. Nikki, pretty sure everyone will be bored at me by the end. Again, same question. What makes you tick? What brings the sparkles to your eyes? And yeah, at working at TrendMiner, of course, but what makes you you?
So two things. The people, the first day I joined, just like Jan, in my interview, I met 5-6 people, and it just wasn't a connection, both on a personal and a skill level. Smart people, it's always fun to work with and exchange ideas, learn new things. And I think if you from a technical background look at what I just discussed in my 2 slides, the challenges we have, they're really great. I mean, there are challenges, there's new things, we're really innovating in some ways where there is still no market, no ready-made solutions, and we're trying to bring all of that in a very user-friendly and non-technical way to our customers. And that's I think, yeah, great to work on those type of things from a day-to-day perspective.
All right, thank you very much. Very clear. I think something we can all relate to. So Jan, we deep dived into the teams, but no team. Yeah, it's not islands. We have to work across the teams. What are the challenges you have? How are you managing this? And who is helping you to manage this?
Really good question, Hannah. You know, we started out by explaining the challenge of the things that I identified when I started at TrendMiner. Now, one of the things, I didn't mention it yet. I had the feeling you were going to ask me that question somehow, so I kept it for this moment specifically. But one of the things that we lacked was a really good way to work cross-collaborative with all of the teams that we had, right? And it turns out that usually when you enter a company, there are people who already identified this as well and might have certain answers to the challenge, obviously. So during my initial onboarding, when I got to know everybody, I met Brecht, and Brecht is a product owner at TrendMiner, had a bit of like, not I would say frustrations, but he had a clear vision on what we needed to improve when it came to cross-team collaboration, right? So we didn't really have a planning, other stuff was going wrong, maybe we could do process improvements. He already, you know, took clear ownership to fix certain items, but you know, we identified, maybe, you know, we can actually give that person, give Brecht that position within the organization with that mission statement, and then, you know, build from there. I'd really love to hear Brecht, you know, share his experiences, what that meant for him, how that came about, so that we can see, okay, what does it mean like working at TrendMiner, and how can you grow if you take ownership, just like we say in our values, what happens for you and on a professional level as well.
Yeah, and I see Brecht in the meantime joined. Hi, Brecht. Brecht and I actually joined around the same time at TrendMiner, so we have that that starter connection still going on.
Right, so you can get a badge at the same time.
Exactly.
Nice.
Brecht, I don't want to take you from answering the question that Jan threw at you.
No, thank you. What a nice introduction. Indeed, I want to share a few things about that. So I started at TrendMiner 1.5 years ago, so same time as Hannah, as a product owner after I did a similar job in another company. But I immediately noticed that TrendMiner was better organized than my previous company, but I could use my experience to do some changes on my own team. For example, we also made the switch from Kanban to Scrum. We handled support tickets a little bit different than other teams. So we did a few optimizations in our own team, but as a PO, you of course are always in the war zone between engineering, product, support, project. And you're also on the first row of everything that goes wrong within an IT organization. And I realized that I couldn't solve anything anymore within my own team. So I asked management to do more stuff on an organization level. Because at the moment, when I was a product owner, didn't have time for that, or more the authority to do stuff like that. So I started with a smaller project a few months ago to improve the way we handle translations in our software. We had a system before, but I think we can all agree that it kind of sucked. So we need to do something else. So that was some kind of first small project for me, and I really like to do it. So yeah, that's why I asked to do more. And of course, as Jan already mentioned, cross teamwork is one of our major challenges at the moment. We have 7 teams, we have 1 product, so you can imagine to align that all on a roadmap and a planning. That's quite difficult. At the moment, we have to be honest, there are a little bit boundaries between all those teams, and that's partly caused by remote working, of course. You only talk to the people of your own team. You don't see the others that much anymore. That has a lot of advantages. There's real focus within our teams. But of course, on the downside, that's not how our product works. One feature is not one service. So there is a real need for alignment on a functional level, but also on a technical level between all different teams. So we need to keep the work together as one team, but also keep the focus that we had before with all the different teams. So that's a little bit my first challenge in my new role as an R&D operations manager. How can I improve this process? How can we look at different toolings to do that? But I'm really happy that I get the opportunity to work on these topics, because all those topics were the things that annoyed me as a product owner before. So now I get the opportunity to solve them. So that's really great to do. And like all other IT companies, we have challenges. I think that's clear what everyone told you already today. But the cool thing about TrendMiner is that they're not too proud to admit that. They just say, okay, we have challenges. We're not going to ignore them and keep working like we used to do. No, we are going to invest to solve them and see how we can improve ourselves every day.
All right, that's nice, and that's true. So the sun is already shining. Wow, that was a big one. So the sparkles are already there. But Brecht, you know what I'm going to ask. How about you? What makes you tick?
Actually, the same as Nikki, two things. So for me, on a personal level, I can really feel that I can make a difference within TrendMiner. As a PO, you can make features and help shape the product to help out our customers. And in my new role, I can do almost the same, but then just for the processes for my colleagues to make their life better and easier. But on the other hand, and that's something that I find very important, is that you can really feel that TrendMiner is an engineering company. It's full of innovation, and R&D is still the core business of TrendMiner. It's not just a big company with a small R&D department. No, R&D is what we do. You can feel it in everything that we do within the company. That's really an engineering atmosphere, and it's very, very cool to work in that kind of atmosphere.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Brecht. So Jan, we spoke about teams, we spoke about team collaboration, but again, no team is an island, no department is an island.
True.
How about the cross-departmental collaboration? And I think, as you already mentioned, customer centricity. How is that? Yeah, how is that all related?
Yeah. So Rob already mentioned that they're in contact with customers when it
Exactly.
comes to features. Now, obviously, we also have a department within TrendMiner that's responsible for interacting with customer in a day-to-day relationship, right? So they encounter maybe issues, questions, whatever might pop up in a direct relationship with them. And obviously, within R&D, we have to know these things and provide an answer to that in a timely manner so that we can help our business grow and our customers happy, etc. So one of the things that we also identified was a bit a similar story to Brecht, although it's a little bit different, but it's the same context, is that we identified the need for like a person that acts as the glue between those two departments. Now, in our search, we found the perfect candidate there who actually comes from within R&D, understands the technical boundaries, constraints, challenges of the product, but also has a real affinity with the end users and what that means for them. So we identify that we need that role as a support manager to offer an answer to that and make sure that we also streamline that communication, which is, and Brecht mentioned it, there is a challenge today in these remote times to not stay stuck on your island, right? We are a lot more isolated now than we were before because we're not in this office anymore, right? So the fact that you maybe encounter someone, can ask a small question, now it takes effort, it takes time to actually do that properly. So we need someone to facilitate that today. I think we invited Stan, who picked up the role. Perfect
candidate you mentioned.
Perfect candidate for that role, to be honest, who has a clear vision of where he wants to go to, and I'd love to, get him to share.
We have him here.
Yeah. Hey, Stan.
Hey, Jan. Hey, Hanne. Hey, everybody. Yeah. Indeed, Jan, as you indicated, I was formerly a product owner at TrendMiner, and I was recently I have taken up the role as a support manager. Because as a product owner, I experienced on a daily basis actually the challenges of our first line support. So we have a very high confidence in our quality engineers or quality assurance. But nevertheless, you cannot avoid that our customers have questions, have issues. And in the past, we were rather small. We had also smaller customers. So it wasn't that big of a challenge as it is today. With one support engineer, we could handle it. But as the company is growing, the customers are also growing. So yeah, it becomes a bigger challenge. So we need to adapt there also. So yeah, I think 3 big challenges here were that, yeah, as I mentioned, the customers are expanding, bigger installations, so also more challenging, and sometimes the customers reach the boundaries of the product, what the product can do. So that's always very challenging to test the limits of your application. Second thing is, yeah, as you or Nikki especially already indicated, we're a tech company. We constantly evolve. We introduce new technologies, and of course, that's also a challenge. Our customers are looking for answers, looking which way to go. Within the R&D department, you need to get new skills and new learnings. But not only within R&D, the technical evolution that the product is going through, that affects everybody within the company. It's not just R&D. Sales needs to know what they can sell. Customer success needs to know what that technology can and cannot do to support the customers. And of course, the first line support also needs to know how these things work and how we can support the customers. So that's, of course, obviously also a big challenge. And the third thing that I think is a big challenge is the fact that just the fact on its own that the company is growing. You have more people, you have more colleagues, but that also means that the knowledge within the company is a bit more widespread. Yeah, let's say if you're a startup, everybody, you're a few people and you know each other and you know where to find your answers. But if you get more and more colleagues, yeah, it's a bit more difficult. Different people get specialized in different domains, maybe. So yeah, looking for your answer is a bit more challenging when the company grows. And in the end, I think we all believe that each colleague has a piece of the puzzle. There's no one within the company who has the complete picture. And if a problem occurs, there's no one, not a single person within the company that can solve that issue in a perfect or the best fit way. We need each other's knowledge. Customer success knows the customer very well, the politics, the contracts. They know, for example, almost which hobbies that these contact persons within the customer have. So they really know what the customers think and how they feel. And R&D has the technical knowledge. Support knows what happened during an upgrade, and yeah, everybody has a piece of the puzzle. So yeah, and that's, yeah, TrendMiner has always been very famous for its support, and that's nice to say. Of course, we get very good NPS scores from our customers, so that's something to be really proud of. And I think that's also why TrendMiner was growing that well, because the customers trust us. But of course, it's also a challenge to keep up with those high standards as we grow. And I think the reason that we will succeed in keeping up these high standards is because when you face a challenge or a problem in TrendMiner, you always know that you're not on your own. That's I sometimes refer to that as #OneTeam. If you have a question, you know that someone from another team or another department is always available to help you out. And that's also what makes me enthusiastic to work at TrendMiner. It's not that trivial. I think in a lot of companies there's also a bit of a mentality like it's not my problem, you solve it. And I think that's a bit different within TrendMiner. And at the end of the day, when I close my laptop and I know that we as a team were able to solve a problem in the best fit way with each other's help and each other's knowledge, yeah, that makes me go the extra mile, actually.
You're a smart man, Stijn, because you already answered my question. I actually like what you said. I like how you explained how all different expertises come together, how we all work as one team. So thank you for that. I really enjoyed listening to you. So Jan, what we hear is customer centricity is important. It's a value of TrendMiner. It's how we operate. We discussed it from a technical, from a process perspective, but I know there is more to it. I know there are other people who also contribute and have a big impact.
Yep.
So I'm going to throw that ball to you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll catch it. So you know, in the interaction of Rob, what we saw a clear interface where people interact with our product, right? It's impossible to do it otherwise. There's a visual aspect to the technical challenge that we bring to them, and you know, try to make a complex thing into something that's trivial for them, that they can work with and that they can use to their benefit and grow their own company. So obviously we have work to be done, and we need people who understand what that means, how to translate that technical, which is, if you look at it, working with analytics is a technical challenge. It's not an easy thing to do. How can we translate that, which is in nature complex, to something that's understandable from an interaction point of view?
Yeah.
Right. So we need UX experts who know that, you know, from a technical perspective, what is this about, and how do we translate that to something we can interact with?
Yeah.
So I also introduce, or I would like to introduce, Gert, who's our UX expert at TrendMiner, who's, you know, actively working to translate that to something our customers work with. Gert, will you share with us what you do today, what that means for you?
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me. Well, Hanne already mentioned with Stijn how smart of a man he was. So I will also start with what gets me going in order to get this, this story complete. And so I joined TrendMiner about 2 years ago through Rob, actually. He convinced me how amazing of the TrendMiner products are. And I actually like the fact the things that we are building are indeed very state-of-the-art, and working in a challenging environment really excites me. And another thing I like, but I never anticipated when I first joined, is the customer centricity. I've never actually experienced something so vastly embedded in the core values of a company somewhere else. So yeah, it wasn't something that needed change from my end. It was there already. So my role, okay, it has impact. I can shape it a bit, but it was already there. So that's really nice to experience. But yeah, to get to my role, just like Stijn, working as a UX UI designer at TrendMiner means carrying out the values of being customer central. The only difference is that I would like to eliminate the need of support as much as possible. So hopefully I'm making Stijn's life a little bit easier, but doing it from the product side so that they don't end up asking for support, make it as clear as possible. But yeah, the main question that I ask is what we are building, is it actually fulfilling our customers' need? And can they actually solve their everyday problems in an unobstructive way? And the answers to these questions, they can only be positive if we fuel our software with user experience that actually delights our users. So actually, I'm not the one to solve this on my own, because it has been mentioned before, it can only be done as #1team. So the final product is shaped by collaboration, and I'm really thankful for the way our different teams at TrendMiner are evolving, because there has been some improvements in time and the 2 years that I work at TrendMiner. To give you like a high level view of what happens is, like, through our customer success managers, we get to know all the common issues our customers are facing. Like mentioned before, they know the ins and outs of our customers. And these issues actually get categorized and prioritized by the product team on the roadmap that they have carried out. And this then can be translated again into design solutions from my end that are buildable and maintainable by our developers. So you can see that I have a lot of, I don't really have a team, but I come cross department and the collaborations really make or break our product. So yeah, that's how we can improve our products experience even more on an iterative way.
Yeah. It's not a one-man show or an island. You really have a cross-team or cross-departmental impact.
Yes.
Gert, you know what I'm going to ask. You also are the guy with the sparkles in the eyes.
Yeah,
What is it?
I already mentioned it. So I started by saying it. Yeah, it's just the fact that we're building state-of-the-art product, the challenging environment, but also the customer success that was already there when I started. It was what really, yeah, delighted me.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Gert. Thank you for all the other R&D colleagues. It might not show, but we've done this quite at a certain speed. So thank you again for your effort. While I'm going to check if there are questions in the chat, maybe Jan, this webinar, of course, is to open the doors to show people, the nice office, the great team. But we have ambitions. We're growing, so maybe you can explain what that means.
So basically, within R&D, we're looking for like any role in our portfolio, meaning engineers, QA engineers, operations, designers, even to support Gert in his mission, because there's still work to be done there. But also, and that may be first and foremost, looking at the current things that we want to solve first, is we are looking for team leads.
Okay.
So people who can actually take ownership of a team and work with them, work with me, with them, with everybody in our organization to bring that to the next level, whatever that may mean. So they get the autonomy to identify all of that themselves. I mean, I'm not there to just tell them what to do. They can just carry that. So we really need those roles for certain teams, not for all of them, definitely for some. So we're actively looking for those roles. As a second one, to support translating the vision, the roadmap that we have from a product perspective, so what Rob and the team are doing, to translate that into what needs to happen on a lower technical level. We're also looking for functional analysts to really assist. I think we have a couple of teams who really can benefit from people with those skills to bring them to that next level and identify their way of working and filling the gap that we have there today. QA engineer, I think we also have on the website, where we also actively are looking for. So I think those are the three most important ones that we really need to figure out short term to help us get to that whatever that next level is, right?
Okay. So as it's quite clear, we're looking for great people that want to join a great team. Maybe someone of the team that's working from home can share the link to the vacancies on the website in the chat. And in the meantime, I just picked up, and there are other questions popping in, but the first question was on remote work after Corona. If you want, I can also explain that.
Sure. I think we're currently looking for how we want to proceed.
Exactly. So before Corona, the main place of work was the office, but people could work from home 1 to 2 days a week. It's clear for us that we will provide more flexibility, but to what extent, we don't have an answer, because the situation at the moment doesn't require an answer. But the answer is we will be more flexible. Let me quickly check. Okay, so that's TrendMiner community sharing the link, so that's great. Then that was the only question that popped up, so that was an easy one. I want to thank the team. I want to thank you, Jan, for joining me in the office, and most of all, I want to thank you, the attendees who registered, who signed up, or who are watching this later. We're very happy that you're interested in TrendMiner, in the team. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to Jan via LinkedIn, Jan de Dobbeleer, or me, Hanne Nijens. You can also write us an email, jobs@trendminer.com or info@trendminer.com, and we will pick this up and make sure that all your questions or concerns are answered. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day, and hope to speak to you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.